Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Real People Podcast. I'm Dan. I am sitting with our awesome guest today with Traci. Say hello, Traci.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Dan.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Traci and I go way back through networking and through all kinds of different events, but Traci's got a really interesting story to tell as a hypnotherapist. So I'm really excited to hear Traci's story, what hypnotherapy involves, and we're going to learn all about it today. So with that said, Traci, tell us your story. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved and how this became a career and a path, and we'd love to hear it. So the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So, I come to hypnotherapy from my own experience. I've always been a helper by nature. I used to be in social work and I worked for the state with kids with mental and behavioral health issues. And I used to get a lot of anxiety myself, and I still do, but I'm in a better position to deal with it. But it got to the point where I was getting almost daily panic attacks to the point where I was just passing out. And I couldn't drive because I might pass out. And I even got to the point where I lost sensation on one side of my body and
Oh, wow.
vision on the other side of my body. And I
Oh,
ended up in
wow.
the hospital. And to make a long story short, I went out to the Mayo Clinic, which is like, where you go if
In
you don't know
Minnesota.
what's going
Yeah.
on with you.
Right, right.
Exactly. And they said it was all physical manifestations of stress and anxiety.
Oh, wow.
So after learning that and also going through like rehab to get my strength back and my vision, I went through mental health programs that as a social worker I used to put my kids through, and it still wasn't really helping me to the extent I needed to be helped. And somebody suggested hypnotherapy. And at the time I was like, I don't know if I believe in that. But I went to the hypnotherapist because I was desperate for anything to help me. And I was amazed at how much it helped, but also that it wasn't even close to what I thought it was, right? So it was really empowering, all the tools within you, et cetera. So once I got healthy using this methodology, I was like, this is what I have to do. And I started studying one-on-one with that gentleman in New York City. And eventually I learned he only knew a small, little bit of
Fresh
hypnotherapy. And
surface.
I eventually went out to New Mexico where I studied at the medical school there, which is like the top place you want to go if you want to be a hypnotherapist and do more what I do, which is more medical support and everything. So that's kind of how I got into hypnotherapy through my own experience.
And what a journey, Traci. I mean, you started as, I struggle. I talked about mental health a little bit in my last interview. I struggle with
Mhm.
anxiety. It's a problem for me. I'm on medication, but and you and I have talked about it too, and I really appreciate your
Yeah.
tips, and I'm sure our viewers are happy to learn more. And what a great journey for you because you were able to take that experience as like, how can I help other people? And that's so cool that you recognized something that happened to you, and you're like, I don't want anyone to ever suffer from this ever again. And that's awesome. So
Yes.
I think there's a very I think a very base understanding of hypnotherapy from all of us coming off the street, and I think we'd love to get like a deeper dive into it. And can you tell us like what makes it so effective, Traci, and what what made it stand out for you as a really successful treatment?
Of course. Well, even just seeing the results of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, I think, is the first thing that pulls people in and says, wow, this seems to really work. Whether you're in the entertainment setting and you see someone doing something silly, or in the more therapeutic setting where you're really going to see the results of your work aligning more with your goals and what you want it to look like. But what's actually going on in your mind is that we're just reprogramming it. So I always like to say hypnotherapy is knowing how your mind works and using that information to make your mind work for you. So knowing you have all your programming in your subconscious mind. So not only the programming, of your automatic functions of your body, which also is extremely helpful because of the mind body connection. Bones can heal on average 6 weeks faster with
Huh.
hypnosis, just giving that instruction to your body of like
Wow.
seeing the white coming together. But also, all your beliefs live in your subconscious mind. So anything that you've decided is true at any point about yourself, others, the world around you, your body and mind will follow that programming. So usually in hypnosis, what we're doing is opening the critical factor, which is kind of like the bouncer or the filter for your subconscious. And we're opening it to either add new programming in or to change the programming that's already there. So it's not something like, oh, this voodoo mystical thing going on, like a lot of people make it out to seem. There is some real things happening. And there's a lot of studies that can show, how your thoughts really can have an impact on your body. I mean, there's amazing studies that show even people with like, multiple personality under different personalities have almost different DNA, like,
Huh.
different ailments,
Wow.
maybe diabetic under one. So it really can show. Now, that's an extreme, but that's
Sure,
the
sure.
extent of which our thoughts have power over our bodies. And that's really what we're harnessing when we do hypnotherapy. When I see clients, though, I find it very empowering for them because I'm really teaching them how to utilize their own mind and their own body to their own benefit. Because so many times people say, oh, I feel crazy, or my mind just doesn't work right, or my body doesn't work
Sure,
right. But it's
sure.
really, once we know how it works, it's easier to make it work for us. So even just focusing on, oh, I think I have a stomach ache right now, gives you more of a stomach ache. Knowing that and saying, oh, I want my stomach to feel comfortable. That's the start of really giving our body the right instructions that align with where we want it to go.
Yeah, and that's so interesting. I was listening to some other podcasts, obviously not as good as mine, yesterday, and I was listening to how the mind works, and just little things, and how you mentioned even just like how you're able to create these truths within your own reality, and I know that you talk about affirmations a lot, and that's
Mm-hmm.
and affirmations. When I first heard about it, it almost seems like, well, that seems kind of silly. I'm making myself feel better, but it's so true. It's so true, the power of affirmations and kind of shaping your reality. And how your brain works. I heard on this podcast that I was talking about like how our brain, we're sensing so many things going on at one time that if our brain doesn't, open certain things and shut certain things down, we'll have a sensory overload and just go nuts. So it's so fascinating how the brain works and and you're not tricking the brain. You're essentially kind of almost getting it to work with you, and that's what I think the really interesting thing about it is. And I think it's so cool that you're able to help people in that regard. And speaking
Thank
about
you.
helping people, for if I'm a new patient, this is my first time. I've never been to hypnotherapist before. What can I expect? What's a session like?
Well, every session is a little different because I usually see clients for a series of sessions building on each one. So every session we're doing a different process that's directly hitting at something in the subconscious, either adding new programming or changing the programming that's there. Most people come to me for some type of anxiety or medical support kind of issue. So generally we're talking about what they've been feeling, how that's going, things like that in the beginning. So the first session, we might do a more thorough intake, but each session we're doing a little bit of a debrief of how things have been going. Have you been using the tools? How's that been going for you? Then we go into the hypnosis, and that we do different processes, but we're usually doing either some form of suggestion therapy, which is like affirmations or imagery or symbolism, putting new programming in, or some kind of analytical. So they might be talking then during hypnosis. And in those sessions, we're really changing the programming that's already there. We're getting insight into what the programming it is. Maybe it's not at all what we assumed. But that's generally what we're doing. And then we talk a little bit more at the end, kind of debriefing that session. And I usually assign some sort of homework to reinforce. So whether it's listening to the recording, doing your own self hypnosis, maybe being aware or accepting of your thoughts, because so many times it's like even the micro emotions about a thought. So it's not enough to have the emotion, right? Emotions come and go, but a lot of times we attach to them. So just kind of maybe being accepting, like, yeah, I don't feel too great today. That's better than saying, oh, I don't feel too great, and why don't I feel too great, and what does this mean about me that I don't feel too great? There must be
What's
something
wrong with
wrong with
me?
me, right?
Right, right.
And that's where we really can spiral out. So sometimes
Really.
the homework is just kind of acknowledging it and kind of letting it be. So we're really kind of building, and each session, like I said, could be a little different, but it's aimed at whatever they might need. So maybe it's a self-esteem session, maybe it's a trauma reversal type session, maybe it's affirmations in the words that make sense to them. There's many different processes we can use, but I customize everything from the words I use because I want it to blend with the way my client speaks, the imagery, process, etc.
Is it kind of like a mindfulness and like radical acceptance hybrid? Like, is that accurate or?
Those definitely can play in. And, mindfulness or meditation and hypnosis are very similar. They're the same mind state, they're just used for different things. Mindfulness is actually more about being aware and like kind of going through the five senses. But if you
Hmm.
get into meditation, and going into that subconscious, that's the same mind state as hypnosis, just used for different things. So a lot of my
Sure.
clients have an easier time with that because they can get into that state, but staying there is hard. So this gives them something to do while they're there.
Oh, that's awesome. And so who should call you? I mean, and it sounds like you do such great work. There's so much to explore. There's so much to, I think it's probably new for so many people who may be hearing this and hearing about it for the first time. You mentioned anxiety. I mean, that's a big one. I know for a lot of us. So anxiety is definitely covered. Who else should call you after they're done with this interview?
Yeah, anybody who's interested in hypnosis, I'm always happy to talk about it. I do a lot of talks and workshops too. So even organizations or groups who are looking to have people come in and do talks around goals or the mind or self care or the mind and whatever, I'm always happy to do. But also individual clients on any goal that you might want to work on, or anything you think I've been keep trying to do that, but I keep getting pulled into old habits. That's really where we see the need for programming changes. But I work, like I said, my specialty is anxiety. So anyone who has any level of stress or anxiety that seems to overwhelm them, you mentioned sensory overload too. I get a lot of people with sensory overload, specific fears and phobias. I've gotten a lot of needle phobia over the last few years with the vaccine, but driving anxiety, travel. A lot of people lately with issues with traveling and like either their bladder or like just stomach issues in general
Sure.
around traveling or getting on a
Absolutely.
plane and things like that. I do a lot of the medical manifestations of stress and anxiety. So a lot of migraines, a lot of irritable bowel, a lot of trichotillomania, which is the pulling of the
Yep.
hair
Hmm.
or scabs.
Hmm.
But I also do just general stuff too. So motivation, procrastination, sleep, pain management, pregnancy support, cancer support, all of those kind of things. So, really, anything you think that could be helped by hypnosis, it really works well. Whether you are seeing a therapist, you've never seen a therapist, you want to see me at the same time, I'm always happy to work in conjunction with whatever you've got going on as well.
Oh, this is awesome, Tracy. I'm going to put your
Thank you.
contact information in our description
Thank
below. So if
you.
anyone's interested, absolutely reach out. I have to
Yeah,
do a shameless plug. I do
go
have
for it.
the travel anxiety where I feel like I have to empty the bladder right before I leave, and I call it anxiety. That's copyrighted. No one can use it. So anxiety. There you go. So no, aside from gross anxiety included, Tracy is great, as you can hear just from her calming aura and just from hearing everything that she's got the scientific side and she's got experience. Absolutely, give Tracy a call. I think you'll
Thank
really
you.
benefit from it. I hope we everyone learned a little bit more about hypnotherapy. Any misconceptions have been cleared, and what better way to learn more than to see it firsthand? So again, we'll have Tracy's information in the description below. Tracy, you want to bring it home? Any last notes you want to leave our viewers with today?
Just remember that you're not crazy and you are in control of your mind, whether it feels that way or not. So my little hint to leave you with is to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. So whatever you're worried about, think about what you want instead and try focusing on that. But if you ever want me to come back and talk more about it, I'm happy to do it. Or if anyone has more questions, reach out. I'm pretty friendly and open. So call me, text me, email me, and we'll I'll be happy to answer your questions.
I will even reinforce you're not just pretty friendly and open, you're very friendly and open. So absolutely give
Thank
Tracy
you.
a call. And I will love to do an update. I'd love to see, we're doing this first interview in January 2023. Would love to do an interview maybe a couple months down the line, just say, hey, what's changed or what updates do we have? So we'll talk later. This has been Tracy. I'm Dan with the Real People Podcast. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.